Oh, we got two Sarahs now.
That's going to be confusing.
Sarah F and Sarah C.
Morning, everybody.
Hello there. Hello there.
Sounds like Chris. Morning.
Welcome to the CPP Study Break. I'm Chris Jones. I'm your host, and I'm joined by CPP liaisons across the country. We're here to answer your questions about Certified Professional Photographer. I will be here to give voice to your questions in the chat, or you can ask them live. Chuck Odom, our resource guru, will be posting resources in the chat for us to refer to. As I said last week, we're trying to make this kind of a universal thing with more liaisons being involved. This week, I want to introduce to you Skip Barber. Skip is from Virginia. He became a CPP liaison 2 years ago. Skip has been working pro for over 20 years, and he recently opened his studio in Yorktown, Virginia. Skip says the thing that he values the most from getting his CPP is a higher credibility with his clients. Skip loves helping fellow photographers through the CPP process, and we welcome Skip.
Oh, y'all. I'm Skip.
Hi, Skip.
We got anybody new here, first of all? Okay. Rebecca, glad to have you aboard. Would you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Rebecca. I'm taking
Okay.
the CPP in March. I'm excited about it.
You did what?
I'm taking the CPP in March and I'm excited
Great.
about it.
Great. You're taking it online, right?
Probably, unfortunately, yeah.
Uh-huh. Where are you from?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we're glad to have you here. If you don't know what we're all about, we're basically here to answer any questions on the CPP process, all the way from declaring your candidacy, all the way up to renewing your CPP. So
I have many. I'm glad.
okay, well, let's get started then. Anybody else new? Yes. Homer, you new? Introduce yourself,
I guess, yeah. I am Sarah, but I'm just going to go by Fulmer so you guys don't get confused.
Okay.
I am on the PPM board with Chris, and I've been talking about getting my CPP for many years now and almost started getting into it right before they changed the rules, and then life happened, and now I'm like, it's time to get back to it. So
All
hoping
right.
they hold me accountable.
Okay, so you're just working on taking the test then, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's start with some questions then. Rebecca, you said you had many. We got many.
Don't start
people
with
here
me.
to
I don't know
answer.
I don't know the rules yet. Start with somebody else.
You don't know the rules. The rule is ask any question you like and somebody here will answer it for you. That's the basic rule. What have you got?
All right. My question of the morning.
All right.
I'm trying, and I am mortified that I didn't know these things earlier, but I just didn't. So I'm glad I'm finally studying and learning. The reflective meter in my camera, the thing I was studying this morning was the 18% gray, and the fact that my camera is trying to turn everything 18% gray, and that's not what I see when I put the things on my computer. And I'm just confused by, I think I really want to understand the math or the science behind it, and I don't know. I know I probably don't need that. So, but I was like, is there an easy explanation for why the camera is going for that? I understand it was the old print standard of bright white paper and dark white print, but I'm just wondering if there's anything more that I'm missing that would help me to actually grasp the concept of why the camera's doing that.
Great question. Ron, would you like to jump in there and help her with that?
Ooh, I knew you were going to send it over my way. Well, I don't know if there's really a official answer for that, but just logically thinking about it, 18% gray is when you have the exposure about in the middle of the scale. So if you think about your 0 to 255, right, it's about 125, 127 in that sort of range, okay? And the camera is going to it has to pick something, right? So its best guess as to how to get something correctly exposed is to aim for the area that you've selected to be that halfway point. That way, other stuff that's in the picture that might be brighter has a good chance of still being on scale, and other stuff that's darker has a good chance of being on scale. So it's just, you got to pick some place if you're going to try to automate it. That's maybe kind of some of the logic around why it's halfway, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that type of question will not be on the CPP exam, though. The fact that it is halfway will be there, but the logic behind why it's halfway won't be on the exam.
My problem is I can't learn this stuff unless I know the why. So that's why I'm having to dig in more than the average bear, probably.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that as well. So don't hesitate to try to dig in that deep.
Rebecca, I actually saw a test that I performed just to prove that that's what the camera does. If you set your camera for automatic white balance, zoom in and take a picture of a pure white piece of paper, and then take a picture of a pure black piece of paper, and look at them, they will both be gray.
I've heard this. That makes no sense to me. I'm going to have to do it because
I had to do it to prove it to myself.
Yep.
And
Guy
I
has
can kind of jump
hand
in
up
here
there.
too.
We'll let Guy also answer that or chime in.
Thank you, Chris.
Guy T. Sorry
Thank you
about
very
that.
much, sir.
Yeah,
Hey,
Guy T,
Rebecca. The example that Chuck just stated is shown in Steve Kozak's class as well. A very, very strong resources, either Steve Kozak, Chris Duncan, those types of things.
I watched the video this morning, and that's why I'm asking the question. So,
yep.
Thank you.
Steve shows you, walks you through it as part of his course on learning a CPP. But I also just posted in chat. You guys can use chat as well. That's from X-Rite, the color checker people. So if you look in the chat, there's their answer. And online, they have a ton more. So if you ever want to really wrap your head around the wrong wheels, things that won't be on the exam, go visit X-Rite.
Great. Thank you.
Does that help clarify it, Rebecca?
Yeah.
But and I can kind of jump on that a little bit too. I have a lot of beginner students. Basically, just if you point your camera at something, don't think of it as a color, think of it as a shade. Your camera is going to turn everything that you pointed at gray, whether it's black, white, purple, whatever. It just sees it as a shade of gray. So don't think of it as a color. And some things that you can use for actually setting your meter would be like the palm of your hand or green grass or a gray card. Things that reflect that amount, and you can actually use that to help set your camera. So just when it comes to it, just think of it as a shade of gray, and whatever you point it at, no matter what shade it is, it's going to assume that it's that shade. It's kind of an industry standard. So it's like, I equate it to a road map. You don't know where you're going until you know where you are. So that gray point is your starting point. And then from there, you can make your adjustments up or down to go lighter or darker to get the correct exposure.
Yeah, Guy T was holding up a nice target, a great target.
Yep, those work well too.
Go ahead.
So the 256 is shades of gray, not color.
Well, not
correct.
necessarily. So it depends which histogram you're looking at. So in your camera, you can look at both a grayscale histogram, which averages all the colors together to make shades of gray, or you can also look at RGB histograms, which are the individual channels of red, green, and blue. And so if you have a blue sky predominant, for instance, you'll have a peak of bright blue in the blue channel, but that won't be bright.
Oops, I think we lost it.
Processing software. And you look on your screen in Lightroom or Photoshop and look at the histograms, you'll also see the same thing. It could be shown as a grayscale histogram, which averages the three channels together, or it could be shown as individual channels.
Thank you. That's helpful.
We good?
Yes.
Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to mention about the metering, and that's that cameras have they can go from a spot meter to a wide area to the full frame, and so they'll average that area that they're looking at to give you that 18% gray exposure.
All right.
Thank you.
Good? We good? Sarah F., do you have any questions?
Just trying to familiarize myself with the process.
Okay. Anybody else have a question before we get back to Rebecca? We're going to circle right back. Anybody else? Monique,
She's
you good?
studied ahead. She's ready. So we got to just work off that.
Question. Is it in terms of process to take the test? Do they have any specific time and hours that I need to be concern or know about to schedule ahead? I
Yeah,
know.
when I,
I know we need 3 days in advance to submit it through Proctor.U, but I'm not sure if they have any limitation in terms of days of the week or times.
are you
Not as
talking about?
far as I'm familiar with. I mean, you just need to set an appointment with Proctor.U.
Okay.
If unless and there has recently been an instance where this has been allowed. It's on special request where you can take the test in person, but we have to make pretty far arrangements in head because PPA has to send us the test.
Okay.
Are you talking about how long you have to take the test, Ramon?
No, I heard that I should leave around 3 hours, like 1 hour for setup and 2 hours for the test. But I was not sure if I can take a test at night, starting at 8 p.m. or something, if that's a time available. I haven't set up my account in Proctor.U yet, but I'm in the process that in the next few days probably do that. But I'm a little bit concerned that I'm maybe too late to get results back and still submit the images by the end of February submission.
Ooh.
Oh, what? Well, one of the things we found, if you take your test on a Monday through Thursday, you get it right. You get it back probably the next day. Okay, your results.
Okay.
You take it on a Friday, it's generally the following Monday. But and as far as taking it at 10 o'clock at night, that's going to be up to you and Proctor.U what they have available or when they have a proctor available.
Okay.
The test lasts, you get 2 hours to take the test from start to finish. As far as the time in advance, I don't know whether it's going to take an hour or not. It should only take a few minutes to set up to take the test with them. And then you get 2 hours to take it.
I'm looking at the Proctor.U website right now, and they say that they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're ready anytime you are. So if you wanted to take it at 8 o'clock at night, you could schedule it for that according to their website.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck.
Cool. Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm looking for new people, looking for candidates. All right. Rebecca, you got another question for us?
In my other notebook, I can run and grab it if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves for 5 seconds.
That'd be
Be
awesome.
right back.
Hey, Skip, while she's getting her book, on your questions that you posted, or that I posted for you, do you want me to, well, first of all, just let me know when you want me to pull those up, because I've got them ready on a screen.
Okay.
You want me to post all three at the same time, or you want...
Let's bring one of them up and see how much time we have. I got them.
Sorry, I shouldn't have asked it that way. You're going to have to get all three at the same time. I don't have 3 docs.
We'll take all three at the same time. Hey, Chris, why don't you put up all three at the same time?
I'll do that. So I'm going to share my screen here. If
anybody else has a question, you can think of a question. Go ahead and interrupt us. But we normally post it. For those of you new here, we normally post the questions on the website on Facebook, and it's just things that we'll go over if we have the time to go over them.
So should be sharing now. Can you see that? Everybody see that?
Everybody see that first question?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. It says, what modifier would produce hard light? Okay. Anybody got any educated guesses on what the answer would be on that? And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, this one, I got it wrong in the practice test. So, and then I read a little bit more. So I think I understand what the answer is, but I will see if someone else wants to answer first and then discuss.
Yeah, so Skip, I wonder if it wouldn't be helpful to describe what hard light is before we kind of, so that, maybe some people aren't understanding what the difference between a soft light and a hard light is.
Okay. First, I wanted to get back to Ramon real quick and find out what answer you gave and why you think it's wrong now, because that might be helpful too.
Well,
remember how you answered?
I guess that I was probably read too much into the question. Like I was thinking mostly about my my modifiers. Like I have a BTD, I have a talked about, I have a 7-inch reflector, but I don't use it much because I prefer the soft light of the other one. But I also have some modification for the reflector to make it softer. So that's where probably the confusion came about. Just start reading too much into it, and what type of modifier instead of just reading through it. Okay, bare bulb with this 7-inch reflector. That's it. Don't think too much about it.
Okay, I can understand that. Yeah, some of these questions you can really get too involved in. Okay, as Chris suggested, hard light. Which of the candidates want to tell me what they think hard light is? Monica, we haven't even heard from you today. What's hard light? What differentiates between hard light and soft light? Anybody know?
The distance of the fall off.
The fall off. Okay, what's fall off? What are we talking about?
I guess the distance between the brightest point and the darkest point. Short distance would be a hard light.
Okay.
So extreme contrast.
Okay. What do you think, Rebecca?
I was going to say very contrasting, or light that produces harsher shadows, but that's a guess.
I like that. I like that a lot. How about you, Monica?
I was going to say the distance between the light and the subject, and the closer it is, the harder the light. Is that, or is it the opposite?
Oh, anybody know what she is? It what's what she said? I haven't talked all day. What? Think about the sunlight. Go out in the sun. In fact, I'm in Virginia, and here today, actually, we got sun out there. And you look at your shadow on the ground, and what do you see? A very sharp shadow, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's because it's coming from a hard light, right? I look at the difference between soft light and hard light is the gradation on the shadows, between the shadows and the highlights, and how so smooth or soft it is. Okay? And that's the difference basically between hard light. If you got real sharp shadows, real sharp defining lines, that's hard light. But as the difference gets softer and smoother between the shadow and the highlight, that's softer light. Okay. Anybody else want to throw in something there? Any of my fellow liaisons have another explanation? Guy T, go ahead.
Thank you.
So I was going to ask a question. Oh, go ahead.
Monique, to expand on what you were talking about, you were very, very close. And Skip was talking about the sun, which a lot of people think, well, that ought to be soft because it's huge, right? Because the softer light usually comes from a larger source closer to the subject. I think you said almost exactly backwards of that, but you were so very close, right? But if I put that box that's right over there, I got a 3-foot box off to my side, making a light for me today. So you notice the shadows on my face. They're relatively soft. If I put that box even closer, Monique, would they become softer or harder shadows?
Softer.
Yeah. And if I put it way over there, even though it's still a 3-foot box, it's going to become
harder.
Yeah. Right. So the size of the diffusion at a given distance can make a considerable difference if it's closer to you and relative to the subject, by the way, as well. So in other words, I don't need a 3-foot box to take a picture of my phone, right? But my subject, like yourself, the softer light falls on your face when I get it closer to you. But quite often you'll see folks who will use a huge modifier. I saw a demo of this just the other day, but at a great distance, and they kind of threw away all the benefit, right? So Skip, I guess we could circle back around, and based on your explanation and some of the others, who wants to take a guess again, huh? And what the answer is to the question.
What do you think the answer to this question number 1 is? Any of you candidates can jump right in there.
Just go for it. See what happens.
I was going to say, there's nothing about distance in this question. So half of your explanation is thrown out.
Yeah, but just assume they're all at the same distance, right?
Yeah. And I would go with C.
Who said that?
That was Fulmer.
Okay. You think it's C, huh? All right. So why do you think it's C? Well, like Guy T was talking about, the distance and the size of the modifier and the distance, right? Well, if we assume then with this question that they're all equal distance, which one do you think is the biggest or the smallest? I'm sorry.
Smallest in this case.
The beauty dish?
Smallest.
The smallest.
Oh, the smallest.
7-inch reflector.
Sure. Sure. The smaller the light source, remember, what Guy said is basically the opposite, and I'll say it that way too. The larger the light source with relation to the subject, the softer the light, right?
So I'd ask Rebecca, why is that the case?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. It's the why. We know the what, but you were saying that you need to know the why to understand it, really. So the question here is why.
It seems counterintuitive to how it should be in my head, but when I think about how I actually practice, and I don't use a ton of reflectors, and I don't have a studio, so I'm outside all the time, so I'm not using some of these things, but it makes sense when you describe it. I'm like, yes, that's exactly how it is. And I love the thought about too, I was thinking that, the reason that, well, the color in the golden hour is part of it, but a lot of it is also the shadows, in my opinion. So that's not a great answer.
Okay, Rebecca, look at my face. I know that's painful, but I'm using my phone light, teeny tiny little light. You see where it goes from blown out to skin tones?
I can't see you at
like
all.
right
So
through
sorry.
here.
Nope, can't see you.
You can't see
I'm
me?
Guy Phillips.
There you are. There you are. Okay.
Yep. Okay. And you can see that it's a really hard line between like where my eye socket is and my cheek. It's really pretty much a hard line. But if I move even this teeny tiny light, right now that other light is taking over and it's much softer, right?
Mm-hmm.
What may work best for you is just to shine a flashlight through something that's diffused, that's, and then just move it back and forth. And when you hold that light itself constantly, that's fine. You could hold the light, but let's say I was doing it with you, because right now you're about 2 feet away from me on the screen. If I hold that flashlight in front of that diffuser, and then I move it back and forth, watch what happens. The light itself isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the diffusion that you're seeing. But move them together, move them separate. But watch it. Just if you're a Y person and you got to get your head around that, just try that little experiment with a simple piece of cloth and a flashlight.
That makes sense to me, that it would become more diffused as you pull away from the light source.
Right, which is why the sun, despite its size, doesn't work, right?
But I still think if you drill down just a little deeper, the question is still why. So what is it about a big light source that's close or far away that makes it go from soft to hard? Not just for Rebecca, I mean any candidate.
This is the interactive portion.
Well, it's interesting because you actually know the answer because you live it every day. You just don't, it just doesn't come up on your radar every day. So.
Yeah, I guess the farther the light source is from the subject, the rays come more concentrated towards hitting you more in concentrated form. Like if they're closer to you, they kind of wrap around, get more diffused.
Right.
That's how I see it.
The directionality was the thing. So when you have a 7-foot light source, like answer D, the 7-foot umbrella, if that was really close, it would be so wide that you would get light from the left, the front, and the right. So the shadows are less because there's light coming from all directions. But if you put it like the sun, or 10 feet away or 20 feet away, the further you go away, that light has a much narrower angle to reach you. So now the light and shade have a bigger contrast. So the closest you take even a small source, the closer you bring it, like that cell phone, the closer you bring it, it covers much more of your face, and those shadows get more diffused. And you can add on top of well, you probably all know this, but you can add on top of a small source a diffuser. And what that does is that it spreads out the light so that you get the light coming from different directions and the shadows get reduced. So that's why if you added a diffuser onto the bare bulb with a 7-inch reflector, then that will become less concentrated and less hard light.
And then what would happen if you added a grid? Think about that.
Rebecca, a while ago you said you didn't have a whole lot of stuff, but what did you say you do have?
I'm lost on what question. I'm sorry.
What kind of diffusers and lights, etc.?
Oh, I've got some great lights. I just don't use them a ton. I've got speed lights. I've got the Bowens studio kind of lights that I use for stuff. I just don't have a studio of my own, so I'm always on location. So.
Well, I have one that you might have called a dining room, but I call it my personal studio. So consider that extra room your personal studio, right? But yeah, just go and play before you get in front of a client with some of the examples that John has cited and Skip has cited, et cetera. And everything's going to start to fall into place really, really quickly once you play with it. Like your speed light, that little itty bitty head, even the newer ones with the round heads, that's still a very, very small piece of light, right? So if you don't do like John was talking about and put a larger diffuser in front of it, you're going to get hard light, which is not a bad thing. You know, when you see images of athletes, a lot of time it was intentionally done with hard light because that lends to the image. But if it's a lady, she's not going to like the results.
Well, basically, looking at this question, one of the things to keep in mind, and one of these principles of light is the larger the source with relation to the subject, the softer the light, right? Everybody agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So if you look at those four answers and turn that around, the smaller one will have harder light. So which one is smaller? It's C, right? 7-inch reflector versus a beauty dish. What are they? 13 inches, 15 inches, 43-inch octabox, or a 7-foot umbrella. The smallest light source there is C. Okay? The larger the source relation to the subject, the softer the light.
I guess the one piece of implied knowledge you have there is that typically a beauty dish is about 22 inches, although it doesn't. That's the only one that doesn't have a measurement associated with it there.
Yeah, it depends on the beauty dish, but it's definitely, you're right, always larger than a 7-inch reflector. Okay, any more questions on that one? Then we move to the next one real quick, because I like the next one. Black reflector, what's it used for? A black reflector? Does black reflect?
I think Fulmer's looking around to see the answer.
I'm trying to see if my son knows the
I
answer.
really like this question too, Skip.
A black reflector. Well, you know, I've used them. They have a purpose.
Oh, yeah, they're great. Yeah, you can
But
use them to do a letter I'm not going to say because I want somebody else to answer.
okay. All right.
Well, I can tell you, let me give you a hint here. Anybody know Randy Kerr? He's a Kodak professional. He's with a Westcont representative, et cetera. One of his go-tos when he's out and about in the middle of the day on a city street is his black reflector. Why in the world would he do that? That's one of his go-to things.
Can I guess?
I just,
Germany.
black reflector, kind of funny term.
Yep.
Is it to be to subtract light?
Absolutely.
Ding, ding, ding,
Good
ding.
answer.
Pick anything from the top shelf, Monique. Pick anything at all.
Of course, you know, we all know it's pretty simple. It doesn't have anything to do with sunsets, right? And it doesn't change the light color. That's a pretty difficult thing to do. It makes a black light. So we're down to B or C, right? And if you stop and think about it, white reflects and black absorbs, right? So absorbing light or subtracting light, basically the same concept.
I've got a studio where my walls are all white, and if I want to get like a more than a 3-to-1 light ratio, I actually have to use a black reflector on the far side to prevent the light from bouncing off the far wall and lighting up the other side of the client, you know, inadvertently. So that's a really good way to stop that light from getting back on them and to help create high contrast pictures.
To expand on what Ron said, I was on a shoot just this past weekend, had a massive 7-foot umbrella for that super soft light we talked about a while ago, but it was in a very dark room with lots of, it looked like a guy had designed it, a lot of wood, a lot of dark things. The floor was so dark, we rolled out the white paper underneath the subjects and made a world of difference. Okay. Yeah, had we left it as is, that room was subtracting the impact of my umbrella. But by throwing the white sheet of paper up underneath, and it was already the background, so we just rolled it out even further, put it underneath, gave a nice little kiss of bounce coming off of the floor, right? Just as Skip said, white will add, black can subtract. Right, Mr. Skip?
All right, Rebecca, you got your question ready?
No, sorry, I'm taking notes on the stuff you're talking about now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's a good thing too.
Let me give you
All right, let's look
another.
at the third question then.
We talked about the black reflector being useful in studios. It's also good outside, for like on cloudy days when you have a lot of soft light. The whole light is your light, or the whole sky is your light. So it's a very soft light. If you want to create a higher contrast ratio in that kind of light, you need to use your dark reflector even outside to help darken up the low side of the face in order to get your higher contrast ratio. So it's not just in studio that you can use that. It's also outside.
See, Guy, that's a good one right there because I don't mean to point this out, but men like my husband who has thinner hair or no.
Thank you, Mia.
Really,
Appreciate you noticing that.
no, but it really helps, eliminate that bright spot that you don't want, that they don't want. Let's not enhance the feature I'm least comfortable about. Let's make it look more natural.
Yeah. Broad daylight, you can do something like that. And this is that teeny tiny little thing that's just dark enough. It doesn't have to necessarily be a true black one, but put yourself in shade, even walking down the street.
Yep. The outside of you, the case your reflector comes in, it works really good too.
All right, Guy, and the rest of you, let's think about that for a minute and let's look at the next question. Are you using a reflector or are you using a flag? What is a flag?
Ooh,
That's the next question.
good question. Is it a Texas flag, a United States flag? Does it matter?
Lots of flags.
It's a Saints flag. No.
Let's look at our question and see if we can figure out an answer to this.
See it? You can't see it.
Rebecca, you or your cat, do you want to go for the answer?
You saw him, did you? Yes, it's letter C.
It's C?
I went with C.
You going with C?
I'm going with C.
All right, Sarah T, what do you think?
Talking about Fulmer?
Yeah, you got Crail and Fulmer on here.
She changed it for us, Skip. Yep.
What do you think?
Okay, give me 1 second. Gosh, I don't know.
Okay, we got a C.
I'm going with C with Rebecca.
Okay.
Fulmer's using grade school rules. The longer the answer, the more likely it is to be correct. Is that true? I don't know.
Yes.
I'm going to go with B.
We'll find out.
B.
This question gives me flashbacks to college. That's why I don't want to answer it.
I do not know. I'm going with B.
C, okay. Monique, you think it might be C?
I'm sorry?
What else we got? Sarah C, what do you think? I ain't heard from you in a while.
C.
C, everybody seems to agree with C. A small panel usually attached to a stand that shades some portion of the subject or protects the lens from light that it could produce flare. Okay, so it says usually attached to a stand, but not necessarily all. Shades some portion of the subject, okay? I think that what a guy was trying to point out is use something to shade some portion of the subject outside. So would that be a reflector or a flag? I'm leaning on a flag myself. And C is the correct answer, by the way.
Good.
Just use a flag to block the light where you don't want it. Anybody know Tim Kelly or ever seen?
Yeah.
any Tim Kelly stuff?
Yeah.
He uses a flag a lot. And what he does is he uses the main light on the body, but he wants less light. I mean, he uses the main light to light up the face, but he wants less light on the body. So he'll put a flag in front of his main light to block that light out so it gets darker on the body. Tim uses that a lot. It's just a piece of material. It can be a piece of poster board, or it can be cloth that blocks the light where you don't want it, basically. Unlike a reflector, a black reflector, which is kind of used to make something darker, a flag stops the light. The difference there. Everybody okay with that? Yes, Rebecca.
Sorry.
No
I've
problem.
seen it also. I came from a theater background back when Buffalo roamed the earth, and we used to use gobos to put light patterns on the stage. And I've seen these things also called a gobo, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. And also, there's another term I don't know that seems in the same general area called cookies, and I'm just sort of confused by the differences.
Yeah. I would not consider a gobo or a cookie a flag.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe somebody of my other cohorts here would disagree with that. But a cookie or a gobo is normally got a pattern cut into it, where a flag is just a piece of
Block.
Think of a piece of poster board, you
Yeah.
know, to block the light. Doesn't even
Piece
have
of
to
the
be
leaf
black
light.
necessarily. You can use it to block the light. I
Right.
think Tim uses a reflector to block his light on a stand. Anybody else got something to say on that?
Yeah, I actually use a flag when I'm out doing my real estate photography, and I have to take a picture of the front of the house in the afternoon when the sun is low. And if if it gets too low, it's like in the camera lens. It's shining on the lens when I'm trying to take the picture. And if that happens, you're going to end up with flare like crazy because of all the internal reflections inside the lens. So I'll actually go out and I'll hold about 3 feet out in front of the camera. I'll hold the little card up there that to just shade the light from hitting the camera lens. So I'm using that as a flag to block out the sunlight. And that eliminates all the reflections and everything else, and you know, protects the lens and everything, and it works great. So I'll hold it one way, then take another shot the other way, and then I'll put the two together, and that way you got the whole sky.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
same
Roger. That's-
I use the
That's
same
exactly what the
principle.
second part of this says.
I'm
Who
sorry.
let you, bud?
Sarah
That's
C's
the
got her
second
hand
part
up.
of this says, or protects the lens from light that
Right.
could produce flare.
So when you put your hand
Yes.
over the end of your lens without a hood, you don't have a hood, so you go like that.
I don't
That
know why
long.
don't know why you wouldn't have a hood on, but anyway. Sarah C,
Well,
what you got?
Yeah, I'll give you another example that where I've used
Thank you.
this, and then also kind of mention the question about the gobo too. So the application where I've used flags would be when I'm shooting a white background, and I want to make sure that it's white. I may put in some lights either on each side coming into like the backdrop, but I don't want that spill on the subject. So I will put maybe a reflector or piece of cardboard or something attached to a stand, or even given to an assistant to hold that, so that the light that I want to brighten the backdrop to make it bright white doesn't then spill onto the subject or get into camera. So that would be a good studio example of using a flag. Then sorry, I don't remember your name that you mentioned, the gobo. So I use a lot of MagMod accessories, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they call those gobos masks. They're little aluminum pieces with cutout patterns, and you can attach them magnetically to your flash to create patterns on your backdrop or even on the subject. But because the purpose is to create like patterns, they wouldn't be serving the same purpose as flagging or blocking light. I hope that helps a little bit.
Absolutely. If you're not familiar with MagMod equipment, get a hold of me. I'm a MagMod affiliate, by the way.
Rebecca, if I could.
MagMod junkies, unite.
Rebecca, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Chuck, you can dig this out if you have to, but there is a definitions on the PPA CPP resources page. And you might want to look up cookies, gobos, flags, and even barn doors. Because if I'm not mistaken, all 4 of those variations come up on the exam somewhere or another.
I have the list printed. I have not yet started studying.
Yeah, pretty sure those are all
photography,
on
the Photography by London and Upton book has a real nice glossary in the back.
Yeah, and on the PPA site, like Guy T was saying, there's a whole list of definitions that you probably should at least be familiar with, because if PPA puts it on their website in the CPP area, they might be going to put it on the test.
Yep.
I was actually just trying. I was just trying to type something in, which is that part of passing a test is about recognizing the vocabulary. And so, if you read through the glossaries and definitions, and there are words that you don't know, they might be something that you do know, but you just didn't know that word for it, and so you might use it on the test. So, reading through the glossaries and such to find the definitions, and looking at any that you don't recognize, is a useful thing to do. It would be very sad if you knew the answer, you just didn't recognize the word.
Guy.
Absolutely.
Guy T. That's funny.
James, what was that you were trying to show us?
That was Guy T.
I have one of the older books too. This is the 7th edition of photography. This is what I took back in college.
Wow.
So I actually have the 5th edition. I think it is somewhere. I think my niece borrowed it because she was in college studying with it.
Just buy the closest you can, that's also the least expensive, because the more current they are, by far the more expensive.
Yeah, I got mine.
By a lot.
Yeah.
The half-price books is a good place to find them.
The other tip I had on the Photography by London and Upton is I bought mine as a loose leaf version because it's designed for college students who want to take the book apart. It's 3-ring bound. And I put it in a 3-ring binder, and I can pull out certain sections that I want to study and not have to carry the whole book with me. It's also going to have a wider margin, so you can take notes in the margin.
And another thing that came up, maybe here, maybe on one of my sites, was it's also available in a Kindle version, if that suits your fancy.
That makes it searchable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice. Yes.
I joined PPA, I signed up for the test, and then they told me to buy a $100 book. I'm pacing myself, but I'm getting there.
Oh, don't worry. There's plenty more to buy.
Yeah. All right. Who's got more questions? That wraps up our 3 questions, but I'm sure there might be some other questions.
Rebecca, did you have more?
Probably do. Sorry, let me peek.
Oh.
Steve's got one.
Steve's got a question.
Well, just kind of an observation. John brought up the V flat, and when you set up your lights, especially reflectors, okay, you might think about it like a game of pool when you're bouncing the cue ball or maybe other balls off the rails. Think about it that way, because that really helps to understand how light works, especially when you do your images. If you're going to use, try to modify your light without using more than more than 2 lights. Think about it. You ever shot a game of pool? Anybody?
Yes, and I was very bad.
Pool sharks here?
I was only good while I was in physics.
Sorry?
I was only good while I was taking physics class.
Oh, okay.
Because it was in there.
Yep.
Physics is wonderful, and physics will teach you a whole lot. So you're on the right track. That's all I have to say. Just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And apply the inverse square law of light to that.
All right, Rebecca, your next question.
Sorry.
No problem.
Can somebody, again, I apologize for probably stuff you guys all know, but I think I finally understand focal length, but the thing I was struggling with this morning was the question of the why hyperfocal distance works. I don't understand why it does what it does.
Right thing to know is it is not on the test.
It's not?
Not the why, no.
Oh, okay.
But yes, you
Just
will run
memorize
into it.
And yeah, okay.
I'm going to recommend an app that may help you. Hopefully you don't mind if I answer that, Skip. Photo Pills, PHOTOPILLS. Yes, they have a website. The app itself is great for learning so many things. Nod, nod, wink, wink, equivalent exposures. Nod, nod, wink, wink, equivalent exposures. But they also would probably actually have a long dissertation on the why to your question.
Thank you.
Photo Pills, PILLS or PILLZ?
S.
S.
Photopills.com.
Thanks, Guy. Yeah, that's a great resource, folks.
Yeah, they're fantastic for
And everybody I see
1,000
is
reasons.
writing it down right now. I see them.
Use it all the time.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Okay, anybody else?
I was trying to see if mine was older than any of yours.
Should say edition on the front, right underneath the word photography. Was it?
Oh yeah, it's the fifth printing.
That's what I used to have.
My mother had this for college, and then I used it for college because they wanted the same book, and we didn't have digital when I was there. So
yeah, I had bought like the second or the third edition because it was cheap. Turns out it wasn't very accurate, but the 10th edition seems to be staying up with the test.
Well, that's good. So that was kind of leads to my other question is way back when I first looked into doing the CPP exam, they had like a bunch of practice tests and that, and I can't find any of that on the new PPA website. So
they're there.
I wasn't sure if you have to declare first before you can get to it or how that works.
No, ma'am. There's a 50-question test on the PPA website.
And Chuck is digging that link up for you as we speak.
20, they're gone. Chuck's going to put the link in the chat.
Chuck is a Lincoln fan. That's why he's grabbing links.
But there's a 50-question test now you can take online. And the nice thing I like about the 50-question test is it has references to the London book, either the 11th. It gives reference to the 11th version and the 12th version both. References of where each of the answers is found. Of course, the other thing is anybody using Steve Kozak's workbook? Okay. You don't count, guy.
All right.
You already passed. All right, Rebecca has it. Sarah, have you looked into that?
I'm just using the videos. I didn't get the book.
Okay.
I was going to ask about that. I was going to ask, I'm only using the videos as well. Do you recommend the book?
Highly recommend the book.
Okay, versus not just the videos only.
Especially Rebecca.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Steve or
it's
Chris
just another
Duncan.
$100. Just
Yeah, it's only money. Steve
Here's
or Chris
the
Duncan,
difference.
either one.
Here's the difference, and people have jumped on me about this many times, including people here. But anyway, the London book is great to learn photography. Okay, it's a textbook. The Steve Kozak's book is great to study for the CPP exam. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm. And Skip, I haven't looked closely at Chris Duncan's resources or the other gentleman whose name escapes me right now.
Al Alderman?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not either, to be honest with you.
I know it was using old dated fonts, so I assume it's current, but it looked old.
Because we're a closed group and we're among friends, let me tell you something. If somebody here, you candidates, want to get the Steve Kozak handbook, workbook, which is a pretty good sized book, a couple hundred pages, and some tests, practice tests, of course the videos and so forth. And you go onto his website, which is escapes you right now.
SteveKozak.com.
Get the CPP.
It's
past the CPP. Yes.
Past the CPP.com, right?
Yep.
It's $99. Okay, for the whole package. Because we're a closed group and you all live in the state of Virginia, if in the coupon code you type VPPA, Virginia PPA, it'll cost you $79. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's a
That was
good
cute
trick.
little face.
Do yourself a favor and join Steve's online group,
Yes.
which you will get as part of the purchase anyway. Steve is one of those 187% kind of people. He will stay long for the calls. He'll answer your emails. He'll goes over above and beyond by far.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And on certain calls, you may see a co-host that looks familiar. I'm just there to watch the chat for him.
I've talked to him on the phone. He's very friendly and very supportive.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know what the bail hearing was about. I have no idea.
Haven't heard about that one.
Hey, Fulmer, I put the link. It's under register. It says register for the CPP exam. But if you follow that link, you will see a space for CPP sample tests.
Oh, I found it. It's just not where I would have expected to look for it. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you know, all the different resources that they have. And I've actually learned that they have a section there and also in the imaging part on facts that actually answers a bunch of questions. Amazing.
Go figure.
I also lead a group of Virginia candidates once a week, and that's why we got the coupon code. I got about 12 candidates in my group this time.
Nice.
I do it about 2 or 3 times a year.
And then I suggest, pick up your camera as you're working through the different things, or turn a light on, use a flashlight, as guys suggest. Do it physically so you can get it into your head. Because maybe you're a Nikon shooter, and I'm a Canon shooter, so I have no idea where your buttons are or how you make yours work. I know how to make mine.
You don't like to push our buttons?
Oh, yeah. Come on, I do. But anyway, put it in your hand, go through it, find a way to, utilize it, because it's all scenarios, and you have to think your mind through the process. Use a teddy bear. I don't know. Pick a kid.
Can I expand on Mia's comment there as well, if you don't mind, Rebecca? Chris Duncan, I don't know if you know his name yet. He's a master photographer, got accolades out the wazoo. He's also part of TPPA and PPA and who knows what else. But he also wrote a great little CPP guide. But in his class at Texas School a few years ago, I don't know if you know what that is, but he was teaching a class with his wife, Deanna. And the question came up because he was using super expensive pro photo lights. You talked about budget a while ago. So he's using these super expensive lights where you got to sell a kidney just to buy one, right? And it came up that we said, okay, so you're using these pro photo lights and the pro photo boxes, but what if I don't have one of those? What if all I had was that simple piece of fabric that's, maybe you bought one of those 5-in-1 reflectors for under $100. And I had a speed light with a teeny tiny little head. So our question was, okay, so what if we take that speed light and put it behind that unit? We took pictures of the exact same model at the exact same, side by side kind of a thing. Turn that light off, turn that light on. And so they were just, side by side, but just turn them off one at a time. It looked exactly the same because it was the diffuser that was doing the dirty work. So you could buy a $99 Yongnuo, right? The Canon knockoff that you wonder, how do they not get sued? Right, you could buy that Yongnuo speed light, throw it behind a 7-in-1 diffuser kit or reflector kit, and boom, you got yourself a pro photo theoretically, right?
Theoretically, and you can even use old Sue Bar's hack. If you don't have diffusion and you're in a studio, you can just use a shear from IKEA. I mean, my God, light is light, and it reacts a certain way under certain conditions. Right. So,
Yeah, one of Chris's favorites.
Shower curtains are a great resource. They're cheap.
Yep.
Yeah, Translume. Skip, I'm sure you're familiar with Translume.
Yep.
It's a product that you can buy in different grades of diffusion. And Translume, TRANSLUM, you can find them online, is a great way to do a large group, even with small lights. So like I do large groups, and I have my speed lights because they're nice and portable, but also is that Translume. I'll put the Translume in front of that little bitty light, and it splashes the light so nice and smoothly that you'd never know what I was using. And the better thing about it is now you don't see the little bitty catch lights in their eyes.
I never heard of Joe McNally or not, but I'll never forget Joe and I were down in Raleigh, I think, North Carolina one time, and Joe was going to do a demonstration, and I went up to the room and got the sheet off the bed and brought it down, and we hung it up over the window, and Joe took 2 street lights and put them outside the window to emulate window light for a demonstration he was doing. It's kind of cool. Tell you something about speed lights real quick. Everybody's talking about putting a speed light behind something to shoot. The little thing you can pull out on the top of the speed light.
Mm-hmm.
It's got two things in there. There's I want to say a bounce card for the catch lights, but also that red piece of plastic. Flip that thing down when you use your speed light behind a sheet or something. It's a diffuser. It it also widens the angle of the lens, the speed light. I think normally it's about 28, and if you flip that thing down, it goes to 24. And you want as wide a light as you can.
Yeah, it's 14 on a Canon speed light.
Huh?
It's 14.
A standard speed light.
Yeah, if you're using it on automatic mode,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, to
14.
what Skip said, as soon as you pop it in place, your zoom just moved whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a handy little trick. Anybody else got any questions? Ramon, where'd you go? Where you left? Okay. Monique, how you doing? Questions? Sarah F., any questions? Rebecca, any questions? Last minute questions. We normally wrap this thing up about 1 o'clock, but we will stay with you if you got questions, Rebecca. What is it?
Will the chat, because I have seen none of that, will the chat still be available once we're done?
You have to save it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you exactly how to do that. If you open the chat and down at the bottom where it says type message here, right above that, there's 3 boxes. There's a blue box to who you're talking to. Next to that, there's a file, and then the 3 dots. Click on the 3 dots, and the first menu item is Save Chat, and that'll save it to your computer.
Unfortunately, I'm on an iPad.
Oh.
I don't know how to do it that way. Doesn't seem to.
Tell you what, put your email in the chat, and we can send it to you.
Yeah, we can send it to you.
Thank
you. You can just copy and paste it into a doc of some sort, or Google.
Or it's actually already making a text file anyway. So. And Rebecca, that's only $99, right, Chris? Or well, you can give her the coupon $79 to send you the chat.
I have a coupon code for that.
That's
Anybody
right.
else? Ramon, you got any questions? You doing good?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, and you're going to take your test this month, right? Or in
Yeah,
March?
I'm trying to see if I can take it in 3 or 4 days. If I
Okay,
can.
have you taken the practice test on the PPA website?
Not that one. I took the prep class for CPP as part of the imaging. So I took the practice test from State Cossac's website.
Okay, I'd take the few minutes and just jump on the PPA website and take that practice test.
Okay.
I strongly recommend any practice test you can get your hands on, take it. Okay?
We do.
Take practice test to your sick of them. But you'll get to the point that you look at the question and you'll pretty well know the answer, and it'll help you when you take that big test.
Okay. Yeah. One thing that I just learned that for everyone out there is like I just when I was looking through the ProCU or the requirements, I realized that the calculator that is allowed on the test is only no more than 4 function calculator. So I just had to buy one in Amazon that is simple. I got a business calculator that had way more than 4 functions. So to avoid getting not being able to use the calculator in the test, I just bought a new one. It's $350 in Amazon.
I didn't think you could buy those anymore.
I can answer that question. Ramon,
Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree.
Can I answer that question for Ramon? Is that,
Yes.
Did I say your name right? I hope I did.
Yes.
Sound like, are you Cuban? Could be Cuban accent, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I took the test and I had a calculator on my computer for the ProctorU, and I was unable to reach it. And also, when you set up your computer, plan on spending an extra time, because after they start with you, there might be problems. And we've gone over this before in this group, but don't be upset like I was when they go start snooping around.
One of the recommends
about the calculator. Wait a second, Chris. I didn't use one at all. I think it's pretty simple. If you, I didn't have to use one, and you're allowed one sheet of white paper. You can use both sides, but it's pretty simple math if you know your equivalent exposure. It's just simple division and multiplication. So
Okay.
Right.
And don't worry about a calculator. That's my advice. Just relax, you'll do great, and study. Study first.
Yeah, one of the recommendations we make about
this group is really helpful. Wonderful people here, very supportive. So that's all I've got to say about it.
one of the recommendations we make about setting your computer up before you even try to log on to ProctorU's website. I recommend that you put your computer in a guest mode. If you have that available, it's very easy to do on a Mac. And then I think PCs are equally easy to do. But if you set your computer up in guest mode, they won't be able to get to. Steve had an issue where they were getting into private files, and you really don't want them doing that. But if you're in guest mode, they can do whatever they need to do for your computer. And then the other thing that's helpful about that is when you go at the end, it'll wipe all the settings that they changed. It'll wipe them clean. So you've never really changed your computer. A lot of people are concerned about and I understandably they're getting into your computer. They're a little bit concerned about the security of ProctorU and what's going on there. That if you go in through a guest mode, you won't have that problem.
Make sure you have Java enabled. Java. Okay.
Okay.
That was the issue I had. They're not trying to do anything nefarious. They're good people. They're from the Philippines. They're anyway. I've been there a couple times. I like the Filipino people. They weren't doing anything bad. Just trying to do their job.
All righty. Well, we're in overtime, which I'm okay to hang around here for a little bit. But I wanted to thank real quick Skip for leading today and all of Guy's help today. Guy was a big help today. All the liaisons on today were very big help. I understand if anybody has to go, you're welcome. To come and go as you please. But we'll hang out here for a few more minutes, and if anybody has any other questions, we can take care of that.
Yeah, I just put my email in the chat. If you have questions, even before next Tuesday, don't hesitate to email me, and I'll get back with you, or we can meet online or phone call or whatever. So don't hesitate to get a hold of me if you got questions.
The Facebook pages are also good places to ask those questions. We monitor a good number of us monitor those Facebook pages for questions and try to answer your questions. They are split into separate categories, one being for the test and the other being for the technical image evaluation. So it kind of helps us in the frame of mind where we need to be as far as answering your questions. Mia.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Mia's first.
I just wanted to ask Ramon, is that a competition image behind you?
It was.
I thought so.
And just as a reminder to the new people, and I mentioned it at the beginning, we also can talk about the image evaluation too. So if you have questions on that, don't hesitate to bring those up to us also.
So my part two to that, did you merit on it?
Not at the IPC.
Oh, IPC. Oh, did you put it in, obviously you put it in your local.
Yeah, it made it local, but it not made it on IPC. But this one here had some of the tricks that I learned in IPC.
Yeah, I know it's quite a leap, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, one thing that I did not realize that I submitted with a black mat, and one of the suggestions was to change it to white, and some of the tips that I learned, it just makes sense why white would look better than the black mat that I had.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. I'm there.
I just want to point out to everybody, I put a link in the chat. I found a 12th edition of the London Upton book for $25. It's a PDF file you can download. I just downloaded it. And so if anybody wants to get the London Up book, there it is.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chuck.
Sure thing. I got to thinking about it, figuring out where can I find a nice cheap one? And there it was.
Yeah. Hey,
Is it
Speaking
in
of image
the,
evaluation, and we don't, I just got an email that our entry date for our state was extended from Thursday to Sunday. Boy, that's gonna help me out.
wow, you're lucky. I had to have mine in yesterday, so.
Yeah, ours supposed to end Thursday at midnight, but they just extended it till Sunday.
If anybody needs last minute runs, our group is probably the last one before districts on April 10th. So if you need something quick right before districts, send it in with MD.
We have a critique actually tomorrow night. So if anybody wants to run an image through a critique, get a hold of me and I'll get you the information on how to get there. I'll put my email in there.
Chris, send that to me, would you?
Oregon's, our competition's tomorrow night, so yesterday was the deadline to have all your images in.
Yeah, our competition is the 18th and 19th, but they were supposed to be in by tomorrow, Thursday, and now they extended it.
I only had one this time because I was so busy trying to do 17 other spinning plates that I just didn't have time to pick and choose what I thought might go. You never know how those judges are going to react, so we'll see what happens.
I submit 6. So
Good luck, everyone. I'm taking off.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
see you next week.
How do you do 6?
What's that?
I thought a case was only 4.
In the state of Virginia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we don't limit ours in Michigan either.
Yeah, actually, they can limit. You can input more, but
And is there anyone from Texas? I'm in the Texas affiliate as well because, I thought maybe someday I'd go to Texas school and I'd want a member prize.
yeah,
Well, in
Virginia,
Texas-
6. If you submit more than 6, you only get credit for the top 6.
And Mia, in Texas, we have 2 versions. There's the case, which is normally 4, or you can get the quesadilla, which is only 2.
But bump. Guy T for the win.
Aren't you guys?
All right.
The
Any other
only thing on
questions?
our competitions that we do, you're thinking about that, we do, if you want to try and have a 4 for 4 pin, it's just a special award, 4 for 4 award. You have to make sure that before the competition, you name your 4 images. So if you submit 6 images for competition and 3 of those are named as as your in advance 4 for 4, and one of those 4 doesn't merit, so you got 3 merits, but one of the other 2 does, it doesn't count towards the 4 for 4
Well, that makes sense
award.
to you guys.
Is that right? Yeah, we don't have to name our images until we submit them.
Yeah.
When we sign up, I've got 6 images submitted. It's image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, image 5, and image 6. That's their titles.
Oh, are you
That's
serious?
their titles?
Titles?
That's right. Until I submit the images and I can change it. I can rename them, in other words.
Oh, there you go.
They're placeholders, basically.
Titles.
He scared me there for a minute.
Well, see, we also, in the state of Virginia, at a certain time, the price goes up.
Oh, right.
Basically a late fee. So, but all you have to do is put placeholders in. You don't have to put images in.
Exactly.
So I put in
Yeah.
6 placeholders. I paid for 6, and there's no images tied to them yet.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
was doing before I started here.
And
is
always
working on
get the
my-
critiques because, wow, you
Oh
never
yeah,
know.
absolutely. Get the critique.
Sally critiqued one of my images, and I was like, whoo.
Yep.
Mia, take a look
Absolutely.
at the chat, and I just posted the TPPA version of the rules. Trying to give you a break there, Chuck, because I think TPPA might have been out of your scope.
Yeah, I didn't even see that one.
All right,
And
I
you'll
got it
see
pulled up so I
open
can look at
and
it later.
there's other categories. When you look at that page, go off to the right and you'll see even more details.
Okay.
Now, do you guys use printcompetition.com?
Yes.
In Texas, are you talking about?
Yes. That's good.
They have. I know there was some change ideas because what we had been using was also an abbreviated version of Lightroom and moving catalogs one at a time. That's what they did last year when all hell broke loose.
Okay.
I am not privy to what they're going to, but again, if you bounce off that site, you'll see the specifics. So great question there. I don't know if they wound up going to printcompetition.com or not. I think they did, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, that's what we use in Virginia is
Yeah. The Lightroom idea worked very, very well, but some people aren't Lightroom users and couldn't get past simple things like adding up a catalog. Because it actually made the process a lot easier and a lot better. But
I'm glad they changed the date. Now I got more time to procrastinate.
You say simple things. For someone who's not a Lightroom user, to me, I equate that as the difference between roller skating and ice skating. The principles are the same, but they're different.
Right.
All right, folks.
All righty, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Rebecca or Monica got any questions? We're down to liaisons left. Yes, Rebecca's got a question.
Mine's just resources. Sorry. Where is this Facebook group that you all are hooked into?
Let me
That's
get
your
out
question,
here.
Chris.
For $79.
That's your question, Chris.
I'm looking for it right now.
All right.
You gonna put in the chat, or you?
Yeah, I will. Unfortunately, whenever I do links to Facebook groups, they don't show up. So I'm going to give you the exact title that you can search for.
Okay.
All right, spread out here. Got my
CPP exam study group.
Yeah, just type that in. That ought to find it.
Unofficial.
No, the CPP exam group is this. I'll put this in here.
And there's the unofficial image submission group.
Right.
Yeah.
And then go back. I'm copying these titles right from the actual page. So, and they'll have to give you permission at this point.
Request to
join. They'll have to give you permission to join the group.
Yeah.
Monique, when are you going to take your test?
I'm not sure yet. I do have a quick question. This is probably a silly question. How, for anybody, so I'm a beginner. When you guys took your test, did you just kind of hunker down and study and take it, or did you drag it out over a number of months? Did anyone just really just sit down, study, and then take it? And how long did it take you to do it if you did it that way?
I answer that from a perspective of I'd been a working pro for 20 years. And one of the major challenges that I had gone to school for photography back in the 80s. And one of the major challenges that I had as a working pro is I developed my own language for a lot of this stuff. And as we talked about a little bit today, so I spent a lot of my time studying from the glossary of the London Upton book. Someone else who doesn't have as much experience, in photography may need to learn some principles, and they may need to, take Steve Kozak's class, or they may need to, take the classes at imaging or things like that. I spent probably about 6 weeks studying the glossary before I actually, and I did take the class with the Meeks, Gary and Kathy Meek, at imaging. And one thing, and that was just more of a, it let me have a little bit of pride in that, by taking that class. At the very beginning, by doing study, doing the pre-exams, pre-tests, to taking the test, I raised my score by 10 points. So, the classes are helpful, but so are, studying on your own. Guy T.
Thank you, sir. And Monique, I'm glad he brought them up, because the Meeks are a husband and wife out of Arkansas, and sometimes they teach face-to-face classes like I took way back in, 2014, 2016, so I don't know when it was. And the way Texas school worked, the Meeks were teaching their class from Sunday to Friday, and then an hour later you sat down for the exam.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I passed it the very first time, got a surprisingly high score, but taking it face to face when you can is a great idea if you can. Now, that being said, that's where I was mentioning Chris Duncan, Steve Kozak, and Al, last name
Alderman.
thank you. Those things, you walk through a process. And Steve, to Rebecca's point, a lot of the things the light bulb's going to start flashing on you, because you're going to understand the why, because he doesn't just say, here's a question, here's an answer, here's a question, here's an answer. I don't know anybody who does, but at the same time, as you go through his study guide, you're going to become a better photographer, not just a better pass taker. Okay, because the real goal of the CPP exam isn't to pass an exam anyway, it's to make you a better photographer, right? So you really earn the rights. You know, it cracked me up when I heard somebody, when they switched from one type of image submission to another, and the young lady said, I don't have F13 on my camera. Okay, you knew that person hadn't read their manual, hadn't gone through the process, and was probably not the best of photographers. I don't know her work, but I was just like, what did she just say? But in any case, the real goal of the CPP exam is to not only pass an exam, but also to make you a better photographer. And when you go through Chris Duncan, or Steve Kozak, or Al's stuff, you're going to find yourself better all the way around.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's going to start assimilating itself to you. And besides, Steve might like a lot of your why questions. I've never seen him considering suicide before, but you know.
Hey, Rebecca, I went through Steve Kozak's book and his online course and everything. And I'm like you, I want to know the why.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I would take the test, and it immediately, when you take the online test, it immediately tells you what you got wrong and what the right answer should have been. And then I used Google and I searched to find out more information about that. I used his book and I Googled stuff to find out more information until I not only knew what the right answer was, but I understood more of why it was the right answer. And that helped me quite a bit, because I kept taking his practice tests until I was scoring in the mid to upper 90s. Then I took the real test.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what I love about this is that everyone has a different recipe. And you know me, I'm going to go to that education thing. You've got to know how you learn. And the more things that you utilize, the more your brain is going to map that information in. It becomes instinct to your work. So again, Googling stuff if you want to know the why, putting the camera in your hand, reading the vocabulary, you know, and chunk it. So don't just try to do it all at once. Just take one little piece at a time. And when you feel pretty confident, move to the next piece, and you're building, you're layering this information on. It's not, this is over here, that's over there, that's over here. You're layering, just like in Photoshop or Lightroom, you're layering that stuff on, and you're sprinkling it in and sprinkling it in. You get to that test and you go, the test is just questions. That's all it is. It's just questions.
And Monique, the nice thing about it is I'm not a betting person, but I'd be willing to place a bet with you if you like, that after you pass CPP, both the written exam and the image submission, if you don't use something that you picked up from that process in front of one of your customers within the first 3 months, maybe 6 months, I'll be amazed, because you're going to go, oh, that's why I'd want to do that.
Absolutely correct, guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
First
I'll
time
tell
you
you how
sneak out there.
I'll tell you how to answer your question, Monique. Take the practice test. Take as many practice tests as you can get your hands on. And that is going to answer your question about how long it's going to take you to be ready for the CPP exam.
So I did. I have to admit, I did take the PPA practice test.
Okay.
And again, like I said, I want to go through this process to really learn like the technicalities, which I don't know. And so, and I took it without, I didn't want to study. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to take it to really just get a real true like baseline and benchmark for where I was. So yeah, so there's a lot of room for growth, but I'm glad at least it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I really thought I would be down, like 10% or something like that. So it wasn't anything that crazy, but at least it kind of gave me an idea as to, okay, this is kind of where you are, and it'll help me. It helped me kind of realize, okay, you know a little bit more than you thought you did, but you still have a lot of room for growth.
And by the way, You know, in the old days, you could take the written exam over and over and over again without a fee. Be careful on ProctorU. It is per attempt because you're paying ProctorU for their time and services. You're not paying for another exam, but you are paying ProctorU. So you got to take it maybe a little bit more seriously than you might in the past. But and to what Skip said, if you grab those practice exams, all the ones from PPA and from Steve Kozak, and I'm sure Chris has his versions as well, and just keep honing them until you get to, like Chuck mentioned, and trying to get to that higher and higher and higher and higher. If you can continually go over those things without looking at resources, right?
I got a friend of mine. He's actually in my Sunday night class. I've known him for years. I know he's a great photographer. The first night of our class, I told her about it. I said, go online and take that practice exam. He emailed me a couple of days later. He says, Skip, I did, and I got 49 out of 50 right. And I says, well, blank, you are
test.
Jeez. So it gives you a measure of where you are, and you know, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me.
Yep.
Any other questions? I see we got a Jessica on board. She must be within the central time zone. I'm thinking.
Joined us at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in Central. I'm actually in Mo PPA. Well, and you know, the national PPA too. But I'm so excited that there are practice tests. I didn't even know that.
Well, Jessica, also make a note of the time frames on all the different sessions too, because they'll quote Eastern.
Yeah.
In other words, I made the mistake of coming on an hour earlier today, Skip.
We're glad to have you, guy.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Well, we wrap this thing up. I've actually got to head out to football practice.
You still playing, you and Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a great grandson I take to practice.
Ah, cool.
Jessica had something.
Yes, Jessica.
Yeah. So I am very, very, very at the very beginning stages of the process. Like, I'm not ready to declare until 2022. Is there, other than the practice test to get started, is there any other resources? And I'm sorry I missed that beginning part, just because I wasn't sure on the time zone. It did say Eastern, so I thought that was 1 as far as Central Time, but I have it corrected for now for next week. But is there like other resources I should start with, or start with the test and then see where I need to go from there, like the practice test?
What would Rebecca say?
Rebecca would say, get Steve Kozak's book.
Rebecca's in the same place as you, Jessica.
Okay.
Maybe a little ahead of you from what you described. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd take a look at that exam and then come back and see us next week with questions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be here next week. And, you know, once you take that practice exam, you're going to find questions. I have no idea what that means. Well, that's the kind of question that we love here, because we're going to help you through it.
Hey, Chuck, this link you put in the chat earlier, that goes right to, does that go to the test or does that go to
Steve's site?
Well, the one I just put in was Steve's website, and the one I put in earlier.
Yeah, I was going to copy paste that.
PPA site, and it'll show you the different resources they have, and one of those resources is a practice test.
Yep, I'll put that in there too. I just copy pasted it.
Great.
And Skip and Chris and Chuck, let's practice. And Mia, you may want to practice well, getting ready for our next call. When they ask a question, we got to say it all at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Hands and everything. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Buster Keaton's car. Those of you who are into trivia, if you ever look at anything Buster Keaton, if you look at his car, his boat, any of those things, it always had a name on it that he painted on or whatever. It was Damfino. As in, damn if I know. Damfino.
Well, see, with my background in teaching soldiers, if I don't know the answer, I'll just make something up and I will make it sound believable.
Don't worry, Jessica, Monique,
Doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the military right now.
Right.
Anything else? Anything else?
You all have been a gift to my hour. Thank you so much for
No
being
problem.
here and being
We'll
so
see you
willing.
next
I really,
week.
There we go.
I'll be here.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thanks a lot.
I'll be here next week.
We will see
Awesome.
you
We'll
next
look
week.
forward to it. All
See
right,
you soon,
everybody.
Jessica.
Everybody have a good week.
Yep.
If anybody needs anything, make sure you reach out to us liaisons or anything like that.
Grab the chat before he goes. Grab the chat before he goes.
Yep. Just down at the bottom there, the 3 dots, it'll say save chat.
You're going to take care of Rebecca, right?
Rebecca.
You're going to send
Sorry, I
her
don't
the chat,
have
you
it.
said?
Oh, yeah. I can do that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Jessica, can you save the chat all right?
Yes, I just saved it. Thank you.
Okay.
And
you good? Good.
And Rebecca, did you put your email in the chat?
I did.
Ramon, you got the chat all right?
I don't see it.
I'm right below Braun Kohler Para 133.
Okay. Everybody's good.
All right.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks
Some of you
so
guys will
much.
see you Thursday.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.